Walking alone, the streets are empty. The only thing I can see is my own silhouette. I'm getting stronger, step by step. The clock is ticking, but there's no time for regrets. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan. I've been all around the globe trying to protect your soul. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Yeah. We are heroes tonight. We will fly above the sky. We are heroes tonight. Feel like a dynamite, ready to explode right up in the sky. I need you to listen, I need you to hear, and don't show any fear. I've been flying from town to town, from London to Taiwan.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Talking Dogs with Ante. Good evening to most of you from Europe, and then good morning or good afternoon to the people who are watching us from other time zones. As you can see, I'm still a little bit with my flu, but I'm better, so I'm very excited for the interview tonight. First of all, I would like to thank Eukanuba, who has become our new partner, and they're sponsoring this show tonight. And then also, I would like to ask all of you that are watching to keep leaving your comments, to ask questions to my guests, because that always makes the interviews more interesting. And also, obviously, if you want during the interview, you can always take a photo of your screen and put it on Instagram, tag me, and put hashtag Talking Dogs with Ante. And I'm going to share it later so more people can join and watch. And this is always more people we have, more fun we have. That's always something we try to encourage. My guest tonight is someone that is absolutely well known in the dog world, not only in the USA, but also in Europe and on other continents. But strangely enough, I said to her before the interview, there are not a lot of information about her to be found online, which is amazing. So I think many of you will hear some details of her life tonight for the first time. So I'm very happy about that, and I'm very honored to have Linda Pitts as my guest tonight. Good evening or good afternoon for you, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay, surviving my flu, but still alive. Anyhow, we started, and there are already a lot of comments. Kati Wilke is saying this is going to be great. Love Linda Pitts, one of the very best. Christina Pilato saying exciting. Simon saying amazing. Can't wait for this now. Sat down and waiting for this fantastic lady. You learn something every time you're in her company. Julie saying good evening. Andrew Brace is saying this will be so interesting. So looking forward to hearing how Linda learned her craft. And many other comments. I'm going to try to catch on them later on. We have already over 100 people watching, and more are coming. So I don't want to stress you, but it looks like it's going.
Yeah, because I've never done this before.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy that you are doing it for the first time with me, and I'm sure that a lot of people are really interested to hear what you have to say on different subjects. And I prepared a lot of questions, so I'm sure it's going to be interesting. First of all, Linda, I want to ask you. It's now a little bit more like a week after Orlando, this AKC National Championship. You have been very busy and very successful there. How did it finish? I mean, I know that there has been a lot of talking if they will manage to do the show or not. At the end, it went very well, at least for us who were watching it on the TV. What is the what? How did it go?
It did go very well. I think everybody respected the rules. It was quieter. It was not as stressful because there weren't people everywhere like there usually are. The entry was still very, very good, I think, for the time that we're in. And I know that we left a lot of our dogs outside, and we tried to minimize our time in the building. But for the most part, I think it went great.
Yeah,
It was
yeah.
seamless.
Yeah, it looked very well on the TV or on the live stream, but that has been probably also in the USA one of the first big indoor events. So everybody was curious how it will go. So
Mhm.
I'm very happy it went well. But talking about these crazy times that we are living and about dog shows, how does it look for the next year in the USA? Are there any shows planned, let's say for January, February, or there are many cancellations, or what is happening?
No, we're lucky. The area we live in has a lot of shows. In Florida, we have shows the entire month of January and most of February. We have some shows close to us the first week of January, and American Spaniel Club show is still being held in the second week of January. So for us, it's kind of like life as normal. And
Yeah.
people from other parts of the country have to come over here to show dogs. But, we're very, very fortunate.
Yeah, that's great. Because I know, for example, when I spoke with Valerie, I know she said in her part everything is cancelled and it's
Hmm.
still being cancelled. So yeah, that's great that you can more or less try to have a normal life,
Right,
even
right.
if
Yeah.
we can't have a normal life. Anyhow, let me just try to catch on a few of the comments before we start. Romy is saying good evening. Anastasia is saying good evening. Chenge Palochka is watching with us. Nicola from UK. Puna from Hawaii. Meredith saying thanks so much for hosting this great learning opportunity. Karen is saying good evening. Sana Vartiainen. Hila from Israel. Dominika from Slovakia. Christina from Croatia. Jose Homem de Melo is saying hi. Let's learn a bit more. And usually I say it at the end of the interview, but I can tell you all that I'm very excited because next Wednesday my guest will be Jose. So Jose, get ready. Alessandra is saying good evening from Italy. I was looking forward for this interview. Anelia is saying good evening to everyone. I'm really excited. For sure, will be amazing night. Thanks, Ante, for this interview. Linda is amazing, and many other people sending regards from all over the world. So I'm always happy to see that there are viewers from everywhere watching. What I want to ask you for the start, Linda, is how did you get involved with the world of dogs? Was your family into the sport, or how did it all start for you?
No, my family is not into dogs at all, really. When I was 8 years old, my parents used to take us for a drive or just drive around town every Sunday, and we drove by a fun match. And we stopped, and I went in and I saw a standard poodle on a grooming table being groomed. And I thought that that was the most interesting thing I'd ever seen. And I went home that day and went to the store and got all my dog magazines and did my research about what kind of dog I wanted to have. And my family had never had any pets. So this was a big step for me to get a dog. And my choice was when I narrowed it down after looking at all the dog breeds, because back then you couldn't go online. You had to go to the store and buy a magazine, and it would have all the breeders in the back, and you would just go through and read and go to the bookstore and buy a dog book. So I narrowed it down to a Kuvaz and a West Highland White Terrier.
Okay, that's
And
an interesting choice.
yeah, I don't know. So so I gave my parents their choice of a Kubas or a West Highland White Terrier, and I ended up with Siberian Husky.
Yeah, this photo, because I saw these photos of you that you sent me
Mhm,
of a young
mhm.
girl showing a husky.
Yeah, they're pretty
Okay.
regrettable. Um, yeah, I ended up with Siberian Husky, and she was a kind of a nice bitch, I think, for the time. And the breeders were fairly well known in Western New York. I lived in Buffalo, New York, which is very snowy and very cold. So um, there were a lot of Siberian Husky breeders there. And this lady, the people's name I think was Jack and Betty Telford. And Jean Fournier knew them. She was friends with them. So they were very legitimate breeders that my parents found, but she didn't turn out to be a very good show dog. So my parents decided that they would breed her and we would keep a puppy. And maybe that one would be a little bit better to show. Well, it turns out maybe not because they kept the worst one because they felt sorry for it. And it had really crooked front legs and it looked more like a coyote. And so that's the one I got stuck with showing. And I showed that dog from the time I was probably 10 years old until 13. And he never won a point. He won, but back in the day, you would get the premium list. It would have the list of the classes with all the trophies. So I would always enter the class where there was a trophy, like a
Okay.
novice or whatever. So if you went into my room when I was 13 years old, I had all my dog pictures all over the walls of my husky and my trophies, but I actually never won a point.
Okay.
It looked like I was an Olympic star, but it actually
Yeah. Well, it gave you an impression of being very successful anyhow, so
it
that's
did.
important.
But I think what it taught me at that age was um, that if you love it, just do it. And if a young kid in this day and age, if you had shown for that many times and really had no success, they would be discouraged. You know, people would fill their head with different stories about things. So I'm really glad that that was my experience at that point in my life and at that time. It just kind of just gave me like a stick to it kind of quality.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, I did now already. I think I had about 40 interviews this year, and most of the people have a kind of a story like yourself, saying the first dog was really horrible, or didn't have a testicle, or had the wrong bite, or something like this. And in a way, it didn't discourage them, but it just made them, want always a better one. Keep going and so on. I'm not sure that this is something that would work well with the new generations, where everybody just wants to be instantly successful. But
Mhm.
many of successful dog people started like that, with a dog which was not of a good quality, and then they just wanted more and more. So I think it's great. But what I found out from my connections when I was trying to find out some information about you is that you were doing obedience with your husky.
I did. I did. Don't.
That's something
Yeah.
you wanted to hide from me.
No, I was in 4-H, which is like I don't even know how to describe it. And I was in obedience. I got a CD on my husky, and then we tried to go into open where we do the long sit and long down, and the handler has to leave the ring. And every time I left the ring, so did the dog, and usually in the other direction. So that was kind of a short-lived experience with obedience. But I tried
You-
everything when I was young. I would, if it had something to do with dogs, I would do it. It didn't matter what. But we didn't have like agility and rally and things like that. I would have loved to have done that as a kid.
yeah, yeah, that's true. What I want to ask you again from my sources, I found out that already as a teenager you went to work for the Clarks, which were very successful at that time. How did that happen? How did you find somebody to go to work for?
My parents moved from Buffalo to Atlanta when I was 14, and I had. I'm trying to remember the timeline. Yeah. So when we moved to Atlanta, I had lost my group of friends and I was kind of a little bit lost, I guess is the best way to put it, in a new school. And, it was in high school and it was, just tough as being in high school. And so my parents decided that maybe if I got another dog and got involved with the dog show scene in that area, it would help me. And it really did. So I ended up getting a Springer um, from some people that are still active in the breed. And started going to juniors and went to handling classes and confirmation classes and joined the kennel club. And that's, I think I was like 14, 15 years old at this point, and just started going to a lot of local dog shows. And, you know, there they were with the 40 dogs and, all the kinds of different breeds. So I just kind of hung around like a stalker and tried to hold dogs, or, once in a while they would let me brush one for a little bit. And then when I got to be 15, I started working on the weekends, and I ended up leaving high school a little early. And I graduated, but I left a little early and went up and lived there full time.
Okay, so that was actually like your first time when you got to know all these things about professional handling and traveling every
Oh,
week and then
for
grooming the
sure.
dogs and everything.
Yes. Yes.
Anyhow, what is interesting is that everybody knows you more or less today with American Cockers, but as you said yourself, now that was not your first breed. Actually, you got married into American Cockers.
Yes.
How did you meet with your husband?
Um, well, we met at a dog show, and
Obviously.
I had never touched a cocker before at all. I had never watched cockers in the ring. I had never groomed one. So, because, my experience at that point was basically a little bit of everything. And so we got married when I was 20 years old. And just kind of like I, we threw ourselves into this business. In retrospect, I wish I'd have waited a little bit longer, because I think when you're 20, you don't know as much as you think you know. And, you make a few mistakes along the way. And with all the wisdom of a 20-year-old. And we just went from there. But that was also a really good experience for just kind of like toughing through it, because when I got married, the people in the cockers they had never seen me before, because they were in cockers and I was like in a different world. And a lot of the people wouldn't even let me show their dogs for like best of winners or for anything. I mean, for the most part, uh, I just showed my Afghans and my Springer and my Lhasas and did my own thing. But I really love the breed. And what I love about them most is the grooming and the trimming. And so I ended up buying my own dog. So I would get some credibility, and people would trust me that I actually could do it. And that's how I started with that.
So you did it the hard way, no?
Yeah.
It didn't go.
I think it seems like I'm doing everything the hard way sometimes. Yeah, but I did. Yeah.
But that's good way, I think. Anyhow, you will be. Let me catch just on a few comments from here, because there are many coming all the time. So I'm going to lose them if I don't read them. Alice Lawrence is saying from Connecticut, USA. Hi, Linda, a true dog whisperer. Then we have Meredith watching from Florida. Carol watching from Durham, and also the Dalmatian Whisperer. Jody saying good morning from Australia. Linda is brilliant, very talented, and this interview will be very insightful. People, Patricia Nemirovsky de Alcina, looking from Argentina, saying how cute is the story of the trophies. Meredith is saying Husky really enhanced your tenacity. Michael Canalizo is saying hi, Linda. Enjoyed the interview. Many watching will. And then he says also, Linda can show an Afghan hound as well as the best of us. So I think that's a nice compliment from Michael.
That's a big compliment. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's a lot of people from all around the world watching, and I'm happy about that. You mentioned now, and this is something that I don't know a lot about, but I will ask. You mentioned Now, just a few seconds ago, I was showing my Afghans, I was showing my Lhasas. Were those the breeds that you started with when you got married to Mike? Or
I'd always loved Afghans. I like breeds with hair. I like the work and
yeah,
I like the
it
style
looks
and
like that.
fancy. Yeah. So I became involved with Afghans maybe when I was 16 or 17 years old and co-owned a couple. Then I ended up showing some dogs on the weekends for some friends of mine in Atlanta, and I kept those with me quite a while into my mid 20s. And later on, oh, I don't know, about 10 years ago, I actually had another special that I showed off and on. But I love the breed, and I still love it to this day. And the Lhasas were a client. I
Hmm.
had a client when I worked for the Clarks. They had a client in Florida that had a very big breeding kennel. She was from Cuba, and when I got married, when we went into business, she gave me a few dogs to show.
Okay.
So I concentrated on those.
Yeah. Anyhow, I got one question for you from Andrew Brace before the interview, and I have included it at the end of my interview.
Mhm.
But he has put now a comment, and he says, "I'd like to hear a little more about how Linda was first introduced to the Clarks and how they took her on." So say a
I
few words.
Yeah, I think it was just from me hanging around, and I think that looking back on it from my position now, if you're a handler and you notice the kids that are eager to work and that want to work, that don't just care about being in the ring, but it's just like a sense of community. It's a family when you spend that much time together and you're on the road and you're taking care of dogs. And I just remember at that age just loving it, and we didn't care if we got paid. Now it's a whole different world, but back then we were just so thrilled to be part of that big picture and part of all these dogs that were winning. And we used to go, here's a deal like this. When when they were done for the day, because the shows weren't as big as they are now. So, the Clarks they would go eat dinner, they would go relax or whatever. We would take the specials out into the parking lot and take our pictures with them. We would
Yeah,
stack them and take our pictures. Now you got to remember, it's not on your phone. So we're like
yeah,
taking pictures with a camera and we have to go to the drugstore, develop the film, and look at the film later. I still have all of them. I have a whole photo album of me with every dog that ever won a best in show, and I'm stacking it, trying to make it look right. You did it all the time. Did it at the kennel
yeah.
too.
Yeah, that's amazing because, as you said, for all of us that lived in the time when there was that things were not so easy as today. You make a photo with a mobile, you check it immediately if
Hmm.
it's good, if not. But we did things hard way, and yes, I mean. I remember when I was a teenager and when I was going to work first time for the professional handler, as you say, it was such an excitement to share your life with these top dogs. That was like wow, everything for
Hmm.
us. I want to ask you, mentioning about the job and traveling and grooming and showing and everything. Is it difficult to have the same job as your husband, to spend all the time together, to travel all the time together, to share all these disappointments? And did you ever think that maybe it would be easier for you if you did one thing and he did another thing, and or you like it this way?
No, I think it works for us. It works this way, but we have so much time spent apart. A lot of the times when we're at home, I do a lot of things that are managerial, office work, paperwork, entries, billing, and then he's up at the kennel every day, trimming dogs and working dogs. So we spend a lot of time apart at home, and then when we're both showing active specials, I would say, we go to different dog shows all the time. So
Yeah,
I don't
okay.
yeah, I mean, we go to different dog shows a lot just because it's in the best interest of everybody, I think, for the dogs, especially, competing on that level. Um, he can pick
I
whatever
I
place
know
he
I
likes.
know the feeling. I love when Javier and I, when we go to different dog shows on the same weekend. That's the best part of it. Yeah, I I know how it goes. Don't worry. Anyhow, I also know you that you have a son. Is he
Yeah.
interested in dogs or not?
No, he loves dogs, but he's not. No, he's not interested in
No.
doing this. I kind of like threw a suit on him and made him show in juniors occasionally when he was a kid, but he's not really interested in the dog show life at all. They have house pets, they have dogs, and he loves boxers and bulldogs, and we've had a dog for him throughout his childhood, but he would never do this life.
Okay, okay. That's interesting because sometimes children get the same passion as parents, and
Hmm.
sometimes they just want to go away from it. So he found another interest in his
Right.
life, which is maybe better, I think, not to have it everything in the family. What I want to ask you, or what I want to say is that I would like to talk with you a little bit more into details about two breeds that you are very famous for, and I will start with the pulleys because that's something that has been very exciting for you through the years, and you had the top dog all breeds in the USA and best in show winner at the AKC National. How did your story with the pulleys start?
Well, I was driving home from a dog show, and I got a phone call from a handler of Poolies, Dennis McCoy, and he was about to retire and start his judging career, and he was looking for somebody that would be interested in showing Pooley special that he had, and he thought, I think he told me he thought I could do it because there's a little trim maintenance on the breed, and it would be kind of like trimming a giant black cocker with cords.
Okay.
So, and there are a lot of similar lines and patterns that I use when I trim them, and so that's how I got it. I mean,
That's the start.
he basically gave me that client.
Yeah, that's nice. What I want to ask you, if you would need to describe a perfect pulley to somebody who wants to start to judge the breed or breed it, how would you describe it? What are the main characteristics of the breed?
For judging.
In general, if you would need to explain to somebody, how does the perfect pulley look like, what would you say are the most important features of the correct type of the breed?
Top line, top line, top line. When they're moving, they're not bouncing. It's just a floating. It's like a hovercraft over the water. You should see the legs, but basically the silhouette's not going to move. It's like most breeds, same silhouette, standing as in motion. Well, all breeds basically, right? But maybe I think there's somebody brought up one exception. But they should have some neck, and that the way that their tail goes over their back is it shouldn't be snapped to their back, so it should be a little bit loose. And I like to see them with their rear out behind them on a stack, so they're not all stuffed up underneath of them. They should have some angulation, and I think that the ones that I've seen have progressed here in the states a little bit with that since my start in them, which was, I don't know, 18 years ago, 19 years ago, something like that.
Hmm. And what I want to ask you also is, if I remember well, and that has been some years ago, at the time when you were showing Conrad and you were winning all these best in shows and you made him top dog all breeds and everything. Um, there have been some discussions, obviously, also on social media about the correct pulley type.
Hmm.
And I know the AKC standard is different than the standard in the country of origin. How do you compare because you have been showing obviously at some big shows in Europe, and I suppose you have gone to watch the ring. How do you compare the pulleys in the USA with the pulleys in Europe?
Yeah. That's I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth with this. It's just a different look. And I believe that when I was at Crufts and I watched them maybe 12 or 13 years ago, there were a couple that were, and I would call them more Americanized. And whether you want to like that or not like it, they just had a little bit more neck. They had a little bit more side gate. They opened up a little bit more. And I understand from talking to some people that are breeders in Hungary that they like them to be a little bit more compact, and they don't have the neck and they don't have the outline, and they also don't have the movement. They don't have the side gate, and they don't open up like this. In the standard that was written, there was a paragraph about quick stepping, and the and I the man that wrote the paragraph, it's the name escapes me, and I'm sure there's somebody on here that's going to know it, but he went on to follow that up by saying, when I say quick stepping, I don't mean mincy. And they're supposed to be powerful and functional and get around the ring. So I
Yeah.
think the biggest difference I saw, and I went to the Hungarian Breeds show twice, and I've gone to the Puli National over there several times, is the emphasis on side gate is much more here than in Hungary.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they're
But
much
also,
smaller.
yeah, yeah. But as I said, the FCI standard and the AKC standard, they are different. Obviously,
Hmm.
there are differences. So this is why I wanted to ask you that. And then when we are comparing the standards, what would you say is the type of grooming different in the USA than in Europe? And in general, what I want to ask you, how difficult is the grooming for police?
It's not difficult once they're corded. So when I got the first dog that I showed, he was a grown corded adult. He was 6 years old. So I the maintenance on a fully corded adult is very, very minimal. All you basically have to do is make sure that you don't screw it up. So, they have to keep them clean and bathe them correctly, and it's fine. But when it comes to courting a young puppy, that's a lot of work. And I got two young dogs after I had them for about a year, and my job was to cord them. And I got all the instructions, like a book this thick, about how to do it, how to do everything right. And I remember sitting in the basement of my house courting, trying to separate these dogs and trying to do this courting. And we would get them done. And in the morning, they'd be matted to the skin again. But we were missing a part that we didn't know, and then the breeder finally came over and she said, this isn't right. What are you doing? So we showed her what we were doing, and she goes, "Oh no, you got to do this too." So once we got that, we figured it out. But it's a process. That is some dedication right there when you go to cord a dog of any breed.
Yeah, and we have a comment from Natalie who is saying Linda's pulley grooming is perfection. I never get tired of watching her show them, and I could not agree more about that. But when we go to the dog shows in this part of the world, many times you get near to these corded breeds, and they smell really really bad. And I suppose that's the reason. That's probably because people don't know how to wash these coats and everything. And you mentioned it yourself. You need to know how to keep these coats. You need to know how to do them. How difficult is to wash them? Can you wash them normally? Can you dry them normally? I mean, how do you keep them, in a perfect course, but in the same time to be clean and not smelling bad?
Yeah, it's the washing is about a 3-hour process, because you'd have to fill up the tub and they have to soak, because the dirt just seeps out of the hair the longer that they soak in the tub, and you slosh it around just kind of like a mop, just like dirty mop water. And you empty the tub, you fill it up again, and do the same thing. So it takes about 3 hours for us in the tub, and about 6 to 7 hours in the air dryers. We just have big air dryers that circulate air and blow it all around while they're in a raised, basically big crate, big pen, cocker pen.
Yeah. And do you need to do it before every show, or you don't
No,
need to
because
do it?
we tie them up. I tie him up. The ones I've shown, I always tie them up at the end of the day, and so hopefully that all that hair stays clean. They look like a little bit of a Christmas tree with their hair all tied up on their back. But I think that people in the states for sure are really really good about that. I mean, there's a lot of coats and all the ties, and the show people that are showing and breeding here. For the most part, I think the dogs are in really lovely condition.
Are pulleys a popular breed in the USA at the moment or
No,
not?
not at all.
No.
We have points very occasionally, but I would say that 95% of the time I go to the show, I'm the only one.
Ah, okay, okay, okay. From Pulis, we go to another another type of coat and another type of grooming, and these are the American Cockers, which have obviously been a great passion for you for so many years. For the start, I'm going to ask you the same like I asked for the Puli. If you would need to describe to somebody how a perfect American Cocker should look like, what would you say are the most important features of the breed?
Well, there again, I'm going to go with top line because and maybe that's why the top line is so important for me in poolies and just the shape, the make and shape of it from 5 yards and from 25 yards. Um, the f- as I've gotten older and have spent more time breeding dogs, I've realized that I'm a little bit more hung up on their faces than I used to be. I mean, I like really pretty faces and pretty eyes. Like now, as you keep getting better as a breeder, and I have quite a few dogs that I breed. I breed mostly blacks and party colors. And you start having to draw the line in the sand somewhere about what's going to make it a little bit better. So now, something I won't forgive is something that doesn't have pretty eyes or a pretty face. Whereas I probably 10 years ago would have not even cared about that and just gone for the big side picture. Now that's come into it a little bit more.
Yeah, and I mean you are a breeder of Merit, and your kennel name is Silhouette, and
Yes.
you mention Silhouette quite often when you talk about dogs. So now I can, but
Well, there you go.
yeah, there you go. I just wanted to ask how did did the name of the kennel come to you? But I think I know the answer.
Yeah, I never really thought about it, but yeah, that's probably it. That's probably it.
Yeah. I want to ask you when you look, because you show American Cockers all the time and for many years, when you compare the American Cockers of today to the American Cockers when you started with them, did they change a lot?
Yeah. Actually, I just looked in the catalog. I was cleaning out my basement here, and the show that we went to in Florida had 14 dogs in the open dog class, 14 ASCOP open dogs. You couldn't find 14 ASCOP open dogs at any show in North America anymore, not even at Spaniel Club or any specialty. Um, they were, when I first got started, they were, I would say, a little bit maybe more functional. But then they went through a phase where they became really cute and people liked little tiny faces and they almost got exaggerated. The heads were really domey and the eyes got really, really big. And in like the late 80s, the early 90s, I think, and they became a caricature of themselves. And then I think they've slowly drifted back to a little bit more medium and the sporting nature. And I think people take better care of them as far as conditioning goes now. As I remember that I was kind of surprised that a lot of people had their dogs living in 3x3 pens 24 hours a day. And they were so afraid of like party colors getting dirty that they never actually got to run around on the ground or anything like that. So, that was one of the things that we thought of when we built our kennel. I wanted them to be able to just live like regular dogs. But
Yeah.
I think the quality right now is getting better. I can think we kind of slumped for a while, but there's still some people that are trying, and there's some real dedicated people. But I have to say that when I was in Sweden and every time I've been in Europe, when I came home, I would tell my friends, I think sometimes the Europeans are doing a better job with American Cockers than some of the Americans. And
Okay.
I admire I admire the dedication of a whole lot of people over in Europe. I mean, Javier, Sana, Jason. I mean, there's just people that just really are serious about it.
Yeah.
And right here in the States, we don't have a lot of young people, but we have some. So, we're all hopeful that that we keep it up. The numbers were down, but I think there's a little bit of a resurgence. At least I'm hoping so.
Yeah, and when we were talking now about the change of quality or type of the dogs, what is about the type of grooming? Did it were they groomed much different when you started with the breed, what
Yeah. Yes.
compared to now,
Uh,
or and what
yeah.
are the main changes actually?
So my introduction to Cocker's grooming was when we got married and we went to the dog show, and I realized that very many people didn't really wash them. They just put powder on the dirty parts. And there wasn't this blow drying, flat ironing thing that we have now. They just kind of brushed them, and all the dogs lived on top of their crates at the dog show, and there was some blow drying, but the grooming in the US has become like obsessive, I would say. There's just so much preparation to try to make them look right, and I'm fine with that, because I mean they look better when you put the work into them. And there's some, Charles Self, and Terry Stacy, when they were showing dogs, and this is just people in my area. So these are the ones that I'm familiar with. Their dogs were always groomed right and trimmed right. And as we started our business, Kyle Robinson and Flavio would come over, and all these people, they were constantly doing it right. So having to stand across from Flavio at a dog show and groom dogs, it made you level up. You had to be better, because you just had it made you want to be better. And I liked to always surround myself with somebody that wants to make me feel like I'm trying and I want to be better at it.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned Flavio now, and I'm happy because there has been just two comments while you were talking which mention him. The first one from Joanna De Assis, who is saying, "I remember the first time I saw Linda in the ASC 1997 Winter National, and my cousin Flavio Werneck said she's the best cocker groomer ever, Joanna. She can do magic with coat, principally with party colors." And then Dominica is also saying also Flavio had the magic hands too. So yeah, as you said, it's very important. And Joanna is just saying now, thank you, Linda, for the words about my cousin. So it is what you say. It is sometimes really nice to have these people who are doing a great job, and try to do it as as good as them, or try to do it better. I call it like a positive competition. That's I
Hmm.
think what brings us better all the time. Um,
and
what,
and not to interrupt you, but he would stand there and stare at people, and he would be interested in what everybody was doing. And sometimes be grooming a dog, and he'd be talking to me, and he'd be watching what I'm doing, and I would think, am I doing it wrong? But I mean, it's just people who are learning from each other. And it was such a positive influence at that point, because his career was a step beyond mine at the point where we became friends, and we became very close friends. We went on vacation together. So I feel lucky to have known him, and I knew that he knew I would get there, but he was always going to push me and try to make me feel like I would just get to try just a little harder, which is a
yeah,
good
yeah.
thing.
Absolutely. Sana Norhio Hansky has left another message saying Sana Vartiainen has done that too here in Finland. She has made others level up, which is what you are saying. It's great to have somebody doing a great job in one breed, and then you want to try to get better than them. And then we have a question from Francesca, who is saying, "Can I request differences between US and Europe for grooming a pulley for show?" I don't know if you feel that in the USA police are groomed in a different way or not.
I The only time that I've seen the Poolies in Europe at the shows was at the Hungarian Breed Show and at their national specialty, twice. And they are just much more natural. I mean, in the U.S., and I think they always refer to it, as we call it, the Great American Show Dog, because we just spend a lot of that's our emphasis here a lot of the times. And for in Europe, it seemed to be a little bit more functional. I know that my trimming was not a big hit with some of the older Hungarian breeders, and that's okay because, everybody's allowed to have their own opinion. I do it the way I see it because that's what I like, and I'm doing it to emphasize things and, make the lines. But I think in Europe it was just a little bit more natural. I don't know that they would accept a dog shown the way that I would trim it there right now. I just don't
Yeah,
know.
probably not. Probably not.
Hmm.
Yes.
Probably not.
Yeah. Going back to the American Cockers, you said that they are not very popular in the USA at the moment. But when you look in the overall quality of the breed now, what would you say is the biggest problem in the breed?
Well, the biggest problem in the breed is thing is that a lot of the top breeders just aged out. I mean, they just got to the point where they weren't able to breed and care for and show the amounts of dogs that they used to. So the numbers are really, really down. What used to take, we have the system of majors here and all that. So what it used to take 10 or 12 for a major, it takes 4. So, we can finish anything here. And I think this back to when you're picking dogs and when you're breeding dogs, you can't the decisions can't be an emotional decision. You have to be able to look at what you have honestly, and not everything needs to be shown and not everything needs to be bred. So I think that the numbers are so low here that every time I go to Spaniel Club, I'm hoping to see them, get a little bit better. And there are plenty of people out there that are breeding and really trying. But with COVID and with everything shut down and people didn't know what shows were going to start up again, I think a lot of people just like cut their dogs back. And I'll be interested to see what kind of an entry we have here in, it's like a month away, American Spaniel Club. But to answer your question, just succinctly, I think it's just the biggest problem is we don't have any. The
Yeah.
numbers are so low.
Yeah. Yeah.
The gene pool is so
Yeah.
small.
Yeah, that's a problem actually. I mean, I remember now when you say this, we had one very interesting seminar about terriers in Slovenia a few years ago, and I asked one of the famous terrier breeders, and I asked, "What do you think at the moment is the biggest problem in the breed?" And she answered more or less the same as you. She said the biggest problem of the breed is that you don't have people who want to buy Airedale terriers because they are big, they need a lot of trimming, they are difficult to keep in condition, and this is a problem because you don't have them any. So you can't even say I would like to improve this or that because there are really just a few of them.
Yeah, that's a good point. I we always wonder why cockers don't have the numbers like some of the other hairy breeds do. And they say, oh, it's just because there's so much work. Well, they are a lot of work, but we have standard poodles and poodle handlers everywhere. There's a lot of them. We had some shows in Canfield, one of the first shows to open up after COVID. They had a poodle specialty that weekend, and I think they had like 80 standard poodles. It was just like a ridiculously high number. We barely have 80 Cocker Spaniels in a variety at a national specialty. So, I'm not quite sure what it is, but, it's so much work, and we don't have a lot of young people interested in it and getting into cockers. I've been so lucky to have the assistants that we do because I've always had great, great kids working for us that will do the work because this is not a job for everybody. Trust me, it's hard work to keep that many dogs in coat, and
Unfortunately, I know.
you know,
Unfortunately, I know.
I mean,
Yeah.
we live and die on the backs of our assistants because we could not possibly get to the show and do this without them.
Yeah. You mentioned many times it's a hard work. It's a hard work. So I want to ask you, how difficult is to have American cockers in the show condition,
Um,
or let's say also how difficult is to prepare them for the show.
it's Yeah, it's a hard life being a dog handler. I mean, you have to love it, and you have to love it, and you have to know that there are going to be days when you're going to sit on the floor and cry because you're so tired and you can't get it done. Every year before our national specialty, I probably lose a full night's sleep, having a bad dream about getting to the dog show and not having everything finished, and it's just crazy stories like that every year, and every year it gets done and it's the same story. But it's hard. I mean, we have a full kennel, and we keep all of our dogs in show condition except the dogs that I breed. I keep them shaved down with a 7F blade, and we have 4 full-time employees, and we are working 7 days a week.
Yeah. What I want to ask you is another thing. When I went with Javier for the first time to the Eukanuba World Challenge in Orlando many years ago, I remember some of the European dogs were invited there, and obviously they were entered also for other shows in Orlando. And I know at that time, that has been a few years ago, it was almost impossible for the American Cocker with the undocked tail to win anything. And I know, I don't know if it's still like that, but I know that the AKC standard was saying that the tail must be docked. But now, for example, I see that also you are very successful with a dog which has a long tail. Did that change?
It changed for some people, not for everybody. There's some people who still don't like it. It's been very polarizing on social media after that dog that I showed. That's, I think, a lovely example of the breed, and I took that dog home with me from Crufts basically when I saw it, and people didn't like the fact that it had an undocked tail because it says dock tail in the standard. Actually, they amended it to say that you're allowed to judge it as a fault, and it's the man-made is the docking part. I mean, this is a natural dog, just like it is. And if that dog was here with a dock tail, it'd be a totally different story. But I've been showing natural tails for a while. I'd never specialed one. You can tell when some people don't like it, but that's okay because, you know, natural tail, dock tail, that dog is going to be a huge influence in the party color breeding program here. And I'm really lucky we got him. So that dog, Laurent Pichard bred that dog, and he's gorgeous. And Simon and Fran that owned him and allowed me to bring him over here for a while. And I have a great group of ladies that trust me to make decisions like that. And I saw it, I liked it, and they said, let's do it. So,
Well,
it's been
obviously,
interesting.
yeah, that we went there for the first time, it was absolutely impossible for a dog with the undocked tail to win anything in the USA. But now, obviously, it is possible. So that's a good start, I think.
It's a start.
And yeah, it's a start, definitely. What I want to ask you, you said the numbers or the entries in the USA are very small at the moment. In Europe, I also think it's not maybe one of the most popular breeds, but entries can be quite big on some important shows. The difference between Europe and the USA is that in Europe, all the colors go together for the best of breed. So there can be only one American Cocker Spaniel best of breed. In the USA, you have 3. What do you feel is the better system?
Well,
And why it is in the USA that you have 3 best of breeds or best of varieties?
well, because they used to be bred separately. They didn't mix colors like they do now. Um, just from a business perspective, the thought of putting them all together would keep me awake at night because I mean, how I don't know how it would just totally change the nature of our business if they decided to put them all in together. And they do talk about that every once in a while, but uh, I'm going to say no. Let's just keep it like it is. Some things we don't need to change.
Okay. So should I ask more about this or
No,
not? No. We
don't ask any more about that.
Okay, perfect. Okay. Anyhow, I will ask just one more question, but it's not so much connected with it.
Okay.
But I want to ask you, do you feel that American Cockers in different colors are a little bit different in type and in temperament?
No. I think that I think I could find the same type. I have my idea of what I like. I have my type. I can find that type in all three colors. It might take some looking, but I know it's there. And the temperament, they used to say party colors were crazy. Is that what you're referring to when they used to talk
No,
about?
no, no, no. I have, I didn't have experience with all the colors, but I can say, for example, for the breeds like miniature schnauzers, there is a difference in type between the colors, and there is a difference between the temperament in the colors. So I'm asking you, is it the same in the cockers or not?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons maybe why there's not that much difference in the type is because now all the colors are mixed together. So what used to be, you couldn't find a brown dog that looked like that had the beautiful outline of a black cocker and all the flowy lines, but you can now because there are a lot of brown dogs that have that black cocker pedigree. And then you'll have that brown dog in your black cocker pedigrees. The dog that I showed a couple years ago, Grant, he produces like 50% brown. So, and he's got a lot of chocolate in his pedigree. So he produces chocolates that now look like blacks and vice versa. And the temperaments, black and tans, sometimes people would say they're a little bit different just from the tan points. The tan points make them a little bit high strung. But I think that when I got started, party colors got a little bit of a bad rap because they weren't they had a little bit of temperament issue, I think. But upon thinking about that over the years and the fact that I have party colors, lots of party colors, and I never had any problem with them. Um, but the party colors lived in those 3x3s, like I was talking about, because everybody was afraid that they were going to get dirty and they were,
Mm.
not going to be ice white. So they lived in 3x3s. In the 80s and the early 90s, there were a lot of patella problems in that breed. And so I don't know if that all goes together, but I kind of think it does.
Yeah, possible. Possible. My next question, let me just read two comments from Desi Murphy, who is saying pulley used to be all brushed. I remember the first corded pulley, and then he also says something about cockers with the tail. He says the dog with the tail has already sired the super pup. So obviously, Desi is one of the people who don't mind the undocked tails. And then my next question about the cockers was, are they a healthy breed? But before that, I'm just going to read the comment from Patricia Nemirovsky de Alsina, who says, I had to quit breeding American Cocker Spaniels because of the PRA. Is this somehow controlled nowadays? And then Nancy Davidson Foley answered, the majority of American Cocker Spaniel breeders here in the States test their dogs. Having the test available has made a difference. So we can go now on the subject of the health of the breed.
Hmm. Yeah, no, the tests make all the difference. There's a huge cataract study being funded that we're hoping to identify that, so we can work with that in a breeding program too. But what we're testing for is it's just knowledge, it's a database, and it's a start. And so everything that we breed, we do the PRA testing, we do the thyroid testing, and we do like the typical eyes and hips. And so I think that everybody that's serious about this breed does all those things. And yeah, PRA has definitely been controlled. We have a marker for that. So going forward, and like the patellas, when I was talking about the patellas in from a couple decades ago, we rarely have a dog with stifle problems anymore. When we do, we don't, sometimes the girls that work for us don't even know what that is because
Yeah,
they're not used to it.
yeah,
But when 20 years ago, you had to know how to pop them in and out with ease.
yeah, yeah. Okay, this was more or less. These were more or less my questions about the two breeds that you are the most famous with. I'm just going to ask one more question that came now about pulleys, and that's from Alice, who is asking you, Linda, do you think that white pulleys are a different type and temperament than blacks? I don't know if you had experience with the white
I
woolies.
do. I finished two white ones. Yes, but the I think the reason that they looked a little bit different, I'm not sure if the reason they looked a little bit different was because they were out of a different gene pool than the dogs that I've shown, every single one of them has been the same family of dogs. So they all have a certain look, and the other ones that I've shown have not had that. So yes, they did look a little bit different. They weren't as linear, they weren't as flowy, they were a little bit shorter back, shorter necked, and a little bit more compact. And they didn't have the side gate like I'm used to.
Yeah. And about the temperament, do you
The
see any
temperaments,
differences?
I've never had a problem with any of the temperaments on the breed at all. I mean,
Okay.
they're not supposed to be like a golden retriever, so you know they're they're good, they're fine to do their job, and nobody's ever going to come in my house uninvited. Let's just put it that way. I like it
That's
that
good.
way.
That's good. Okay, I will have some questions later on more about handling, but there is a question from Andrew Brace that we can answer now, and it says when they have a specialist dog that's going to be campaigned, how do Mike and Linda decide who will handle what? Do they share the handling of various dogs, or do each of them stick with a particular dog?
Pretty much, we stick with a particular dog, and occasionally, if it's not a cocker, and because we would normally each have our own cocker to show, and we don't switch them back and forth, just because I think that to develop that kind of bond with a dog and get them to perform for you 200 times a year, you've just got to stick with it. And the we show dogs differently, so what works for him might not work for me, and they probably wouldn't feel the same for me as they did for him. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
Yeah,
we try to do our own dogs. When I've got a dog that I'm specialing, I'm fully committed. I mean, like, into it 1000%. And so that's like a huge portion of my focus, and I don't want anybody else showing it. I mean, to be quite honest with you, just
yeah, yeah.
because they feel differently. If somebody
Not even your husband.
No, not even my husband,
Yeah,
because I think and anybody that shows a lot of dogs knows if you give that dog to somebody else and they show it for a couple of weekends, when it comes back, it's going to feel a little bit different, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
I know the feeling.
that's I yeah. To answer the question, we don't like mix them up for
Yeah.
the most part. There's been a couple dogs that I showed in the classes that he's ended up specialing in the long run. The brown dog, for instance, I finished that dog, and um, I think I went best in show at Spaniel Club with it. And then I had another dog that I was showing separately. I think it might have been just having the situation with the Puli. I'm not quite sure, but that ended up being his dog. So I
Mm,
think for us it works best when we both have our own thing going on.
yeah. Okay. I want to ask you, when you are breeding, how do you pick up the parents for your litters? Do you use a lot of line breeding? Do you watch a lot of pedigrees, or you just find the dogs that match in your eyes? What is your breeding strategy?
I don't have the depth of pedigree knowledge that a lot of people do, and I haven't. I mean, I've listened to so many interviews that you've done where I'm just amazed at people's strategies, and I especially liked Michael Canlizo's interview when he was talking about the Trist, the Triumph dog, and the strategy of doing that. That's kind of what I've done, but I just didn't realize it. And I have a dog that I loved that I think was just a great dog, and his name was Sweetheart Space Jam. And I think that he was the number one sporting dog in 1998, maybe. And that dog, I had frozen semen on him. Very few people used him when he was being shown. Like, he probably only bred 8 or 10 bitches, maybe, in his whole life. And the dog was such a good cocker. Um, I think he went 50 best in shows. And it was a great show dog because he was kind of like a horse. a racehorse. You always knew, you never quite knew. And he was really, really wired up and he loved to show and it was always a performance. And I just love the dog. So I got to use the frozen semen finally on a bitch that I co-owned with Lori Furland and got this beautiful litter of puppies that I just love. So now I've spent my time trying to dilute that a little bit and use a little bit, go back and forth with some line breeding on that, and just kind of keep that alive a little bit for me with the time I have left to keep breeding dogs.
Yeah. And tell me, when you have a litter, when and how do you choose a puppy that maybe you want to keep for yourself or you want to sell to somebody, to be a show dog?
Well, that's what I highly recommend to people with cockers. I don't know how it is with other breeds, but I have a lot of years of experience picking cocker litters, and I think I've done a pretty good job of identifying. But I don't think you can do it at 8 weeks, and I don't think you can do it at 10 weeks or 12 weeks. I like to keep them unless there's something obviously different about them. It's very important for me to see that they stack up correctly on four solid legs. So I start when they're 8 or 10 weeks, just placing them and making sure that their balance is all right. Because I've found that over the years, when you're placing a puppy on whether it's the training legs or just on your lap, on your knees, that if they can't put their weight evenly distributed on four legs and they always keep moving a leg or something's off, that's just a little bit of an indication of something of a lack of soundness. So that's where I start at 8 and 10 weeks and just identifying and narrowing down like a litter of 8 to maybe 4 to keepers. And regrettably for my husband and some of the girls that work here, I keep a lot of them until they're old. So at 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, they're still there. And we're still having a dog show in the driveway every week so we can identify them. And, a couple times I've gotten really lucky that I didn't have to make that decision because a lot of times I just keep them till they're, 6 months old. And then I start making some cuts, and I really don't sell to show homes. I just mostly like to place them in family homes, and they live a great life, and I get to keep what I want. But I don't ever try to evaluate a litter when they're 8 weeks old or 10 weeks old and say this is a show because
Hmm.
I don't see how you can. But
Yeah.
if somebody else thinks that works for them, that's great. But that's just what works for me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, that's obviously a hard way. I mean, we have a problem now at home actually, and we are fighting already for a few days because we have a litter of miniature schnauzers, and we have four puppies that are now almost 9 weeks old, and it's so difficult, to choose um, which one is the best one or which one you would like to keep, and obviously. Our assistants are saying, please sell them, don't keep them all. There is not necessary. But yes, as you said, it's very difficult sometimes in that young age to say this is really the one I want to keep. If you have obviously a good litter and there is nothing that really bothers you on some of the puppies.
Hmm.
Anyhow, before I ask you a few of these quick questions that I normally ask, there is a question from Dominica who is asking. I would like to ask you, how often do you train with dogs before the show?
If there's something that I need to train, we take it with us somewhere before the dog show. So if we're going to the show and we have 20 dogs to show, we might have 25 dogs in the truck because there's 5 dogs that need to learn how to travel and in the crate and walk around the dog show and get socialized and things like that. Most of my training, I don't we train a lot of puppies here just because I think that seeing the aptitude of a puppy on a lead at 10, 12, 14, 16 weeks is a part of the very important part of how I want to pick a puppy because I want them to be proud and have big character and go out there with very minimal training and just be a natural. And that's kind of that's part of my puppy picking process. But for dogs that we show for client dogs, you know, I think that there's no substitute for showing them for going to the dog show and just showing them, walking them around the dog show, um, there's no substitute for being in the ring. You can't mock up a ring experience in your backyard. So, as long as we know that they can walk on a lead, the real training happens in the ring. And I think that it's pretty easy. In a couple shows, they usually pretty much get it.
I'm looking at Javier because this is something we fight quite a lot about, because he always say to me like, the dog should not go to the dog show if he's not already perfectly trained. And well, yes, okay. And I usually say, well, I like to train. Yeah, I like to train them in the ring. I like to bring them to the dog show and then train them there. But okay. Patricia Nemirovsky de Alcina is saying, I completely disagree with choosing show prospects at 8 weeks. Well said, Linda. So obviously there are other people who don't like to make these kind of decisions when they are 8 weeks. But yes, also as you said, it's also not so easy to keep a lot of puppies. But okay, everybody has his own ways.
Right.
I have few quick questions for you, and let's do these ones now. The first one: is there a breed you never showed and you would love to?
Oh, I'm sure there is. I mean, like I showed a German Shepherd one time, and I loved it. I mean, I would do that all day long. My aunt actually was bred German Shepherds. I kind of have like a very vague remembrance of it as a child. I think I always loved to watch German Shepherd specialties. Of course, I like the side gate and the big picture, and it's something different to learn about. But I like a good one of any breed. But the breeds with the big movement and things like that. That's what I love.
One dog not shown by you that you will never forget. One dog that has been shown by somebody else that has made a big impression on you. It can be from the present or from the past, doesn't matter.
Well, the whole reason I got a Springer was because I saw pictures of Clint Harris showing the Chinese Adamant James dog that went best in show at the Garden. And for some reason, that really resonated with me. So after I saw that, then my focus kind of like redirected into getting a Springer. And I just loved the dog. And I don't know what I would, looking back on it now. I mean, after having been in dogs so much, I don't know.
If you
But
would like him or not, yeah.
I'm sure I would. But
Yeah.
that dog had a huge impact on me as a young person. It kind
Okay.
of, and I think that you need inspiration, especially when you're young, to do the right thing. I think that's an important job of the adults and handlers and good breeders and mentors in the to try to like get young people here focused on doing this the right way, maybe,
Yeah. Yeah,
because there's so many
absolutely.
distractions in life now and with the phone and the everything else. I'm a pretty big advocate for this job as a profession and a career, and um, apprenticeship is very important. Mentoring is very important, and there there aren't 100 different ways to do the right thing. I don't think. I mean, it's always like when you talk to Valerie, that interview resonated with me a lot. It sounds like we'd be saying a lot of the same things. It's just, I think when you're young and you're getting involved in this, you don't know how much work it really is and how important it is and the responsibility that you have to the people that you work for. It's a huge responsibility to have people trust you to take care of their dogs. So I think
Absolutely.
that's what we owe to kids is to try to instill that sense of the responsibility in them going forward.
Yeah, yeah, I agree completely with you. My next question is the best dog you ever bred.
Oh, the best dog I ever bred, no doubt, is that Black Hawker, Grant.
Mhm.
Um, and I haven't had my name technically on a lot of dogs over the years. A lot of it's just been kind of like my little 2 cents worth on the side. But as far as something that I've actually bred and put out there, that's no doubt that dog, the Black Hawker.
Okay. Anyhow, before I continue with my questions, I want to read to you two comments that I suppose are going to make you happy. First one is from Lisa Nelson, who is saying hi from the UK. Luck enough to have one of Linda's cockers. And then another one is from Sue, who bred all the amazing pulleys that you are showing. She's saying, Linda, always a true professional, and my dogs truly love her. That is very important to me. And I think that's always great to hear from a client. And many times it happens to us, that clients come home and they say, but now my dog loves you more than me. But I think that's so important that you see that your dog loves the handler. That's absolutely very important. The next question is the best American cocker you ever saw, not bred or owned by you or shown.
Okay. There, the Black Cocker Webster would always be a dog that if you asked me what cocker that you didn't show would you have liked to have shown, I would take that one because
Okay.
it's very much like the type of dog that I like, and it was a good show dog, and he was happy. I loved that dog when I thought it was a really good cocker spaniel. There were there was a buff cocker years ago, and I'm trying to think of its name, named High Top Splash Dancer that I love the type of him. I didn't I was just on the tail end of a lot of the top dogs from earlier and that I didn't really get to see them. And even if I'd have seen them at the age of 20, 21, 22, I wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have realized what they meant to the breed. So these are like a little bit more current dogs to me. Um, I love some of the pictures of the old party color heads with the soft expression. I never got a chance to see those dogs in person, but I still have all the magazines. So
Yeah.
look at that.
Okay. If you were to win Best in Show at Westminster one day, yes, under which American judge would you like to win it?
Now
Yes.
or
Or maybe
anybody
it can
from
be also
any time.
somebody from the past. Yes, it can be any.
I have a few favorite judges. My favorite judge to ever show dogs to was Everett Dean. I miss him because he was the one person. If I had a puppy that I really, really, really loved, and I thought was going to be a great one, I couldn't wait for him to see it. I just couldn't wait. I would drive 15 hours to a show if he was judging, just so he could see it. And if he didn't like it, it was like hugely disappointing. I remember showing a dog once, and I'm not going to say which dog it was, but
Okay.
but he was judging, and I was at a show, and I had this dog on a lead, and I walked by the ring, and I said, "I want you to watch this when you're done." So he got done, and I moved it. I just went out in the field and I ran around with it for a minute, and I let it free stack, and I went back, and I was kind of like, "Well, what do you think?" It's like, yeah, So that's kind of disappointing. I thought it was going to be like me. It's like, oh my God, that's the best thing I've seen in 20 years. But no, yeah, so, But I have a couple of dogs now that I would love him to see. I was loving to see it. Um, I miss him, and one of my other favorite judges was Jane Forsyth, just because I always got a straight shot from her. I mean, she did not mince words, and she was such a. And I hate to like talk about women and dogs because I really don't think about it that way, but she gave a lot of girls hope, and she did it the right way. She just was a good business person and just got out there and cranked it out and did her job.
Yeah.
And I have a great story for her. She taught me a very important lesson when I was younger because when I worked for the Clarks, they're very good business people. They're very professional. We didn't do any shenanigans. We just worked, and they just worked. We didn't grow up thinking that things were crooked or fixed, and that everything was done about. We just we're taught that you go to the dog show, and if you do a really, really good job, your dog's going to do fine. So Mrs. Forsyth was judging cockers, and I was about 25 years old or so. And because she had known me when I was an assistant, kind of in an offhand way, um, she was friendly to me. She was encouraging of my career. So we became a little friendly, and she was judging Ascot cockers at a show in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I had gone winner's bitch with a bitch that was losing all of her hair. And um, it needed to go best to winners to get a major. So I thought, well, she likes me. I'm just going to tell her quietly that I need to go best to winners. So when she had me come up to go down and back, I think I must have just leaned over and said, I need to go best to winners. And she looked me straight in the eye and she goes, I don't do favors. Scared the shit out of me, basically. So I
That's
never asked
certainly a
anybody again.
lesson you learned for the rest of your
I
life.
never asked again. Never. If somebody, once in a while, you can tell that somebody's trying harder than somebody else, but I swear to you, I have never asked anybody for anything ever again. Scared me straight right that minute.
Okay, that's a nice lesson, definitely. Okay, let me just read three comments and then we continue. Tracy Duff is saying, "I love the black and white dog she showed in the 90s. I think his name was Andrew."
Yes.
And Joanna is saying, I don't know about what, but do you mean champion rendition triple play?
Yes.
Probably one of the dogs that you mentioned. And then Fiona is saying, thank you again for another wonderful interview. And Ernesto Lara is saying, wonderful to listen to Linda. Thanks for the interview. She's a wonderful dog person, an icon for sure. So always nice to hear from your colleagues. And nice compliments. And next question that I have for you, and I think that will not probably happen, but I like, because when I started to do the interviews, I always had these questions like, which judge do you think is somebody that you really admire? Which other people would say, oh, I cannot answer this. So I try to make a kind of a story where it's easier for the people to answer. So my next story goes like this. If Mike and you would decide to go for 1 year for holidays somewhere very far away to Australia or New Zealand or something like this, and you would have an amazing puppy at home, and you would need to leave it in the USA to be shown, to which professional handler you would leave it?
A cocker?
Yes. Well, or any breed.
Or any breed? Oh, yeah. There's Thanks for that question. I'm going to stay awake at night tonight wishing I hadn't answered this. I have a feeling. No.
Okay.
There's a lot of people that I love. The first thing I would ever consider is dog care, because I'm all about them, the way that they're cared for properly. And like I've told a lot of people that I've spent time with, I would always watch to see how a dog acted at the end of its career versus the beginning of its career. Because a lot of dogs come out big. When you start specialing a dog and you know that you're going to go for 200 shows a year, and then most dogs have second year. So that's a lot of repetitiveness for a dog that doesn't really understand why we have to keep doing it this way. And if you're smart enough to keep them going for an entire career and they look just as sharp at the end and they're there with you, that's something that's like extremely important to me. There's so many talented handlers and young people. I would probably be looking for, if I was going to do that with a brand new dog, I'd probably be looking for a young person that I thought was really, really dedicated, that I could like help jumpstart their career, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And no names.
Are you sure you cannot give me one name or two?
A lot of the young people, it's like I'm drawing a blank, to be honest with you.
Okay.
And I'm just kind of like thinking Cocker Spaniel wise, because Were you asking about cockers? You said anything, right?
Anything, yes.
I mean, I have people.
Actually, the point of my question would be, who is the professional handler in the USA that you really admire and that you would consider to give your
Oh,
dog to?
oh, okay. That there's a lot actually. I mean, there's a whole group of us that grew up in the same kind of like generation. We were all assistants together, and now we've kind of morphed into handlers on our different levels. Michael Shepard, Ernesto, Tracy, Bill McFadden, Andy Linton. There's a whole big group of us that I
Okay,
know just go out there and just try to do the right thing.
excellent. Okay, you see, it was not so difficult at the end. Uh, where did I stop? Let me see. One dog person who is not alive anymore and you terribly miss.
Everett, Everett and Jamie.
Yeah. The best or the most exciting dog you ever showed?
The most exciting dog for probably there's two. So it'd be the party color cocker that was referenced, triple play dog. It was just, it was such a beautiful dog, and he was just a super reliable show dog. Always put on a great show, and I had a lot of fun showing him. And I guess Preston, the Pooley, just because the same thing. He was, you just knew that there was something incredibly special about that dog. The first weekend he hit the ring, I had, I had handlers that just come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you're so lucky to have that. Just wait till you see what's in store for you with that dog." Because it's when you start something, it's hard for you to see it because you're just so focused on trying to get it right that you can't see it with your own eyes until it's actually happening. But other
Yeah,
people that are the good dog people can look and see and go, "Oh, that's going to be something." You have go to a dog show and you see a dog that just kind of like strikes you, and then you follow it. So same
yeah,
thing.
absolutely. What would be the most incredible win of your career?
Oh, winning the show in Orlando for sure.
Okay. Um which one is the USA show that you never want to miss, or the best show in the USA for you?
I would have to say American Spaniel Club because it's just, you know, it's just what I do. I can't imagine my career, my life without Cocker Spaniels. And I just love Orlando Week. It's had its highs and its lows for me on several different levels, but um, I like seeing all the top dogs in that less stressed of a venue, and you have more time, and it doesn't feel quite so rushed.
Yeah. One
Oh,
breeder.
oh,
Yes.
oh, and I love the puppy day, the day that we do the puppy sweepstakes, and
Okay.
that it's just it's just fun. I mean, it's a lot of work, but there's specialties, and then we have a puppy sweepstakes, and I save dogs for that. I have dogs right now that are, I don't know how old they are. They're in my den in the puppy pens, and I will be like gearing some of those dogs for Orlando for sure. I love that day.
Wonderful. Yeah. One breeder of any breed in the USA who always impressed you with the quality of his dogs.
Jay Hafford.
Okay. The the best owner handler in the USA for you, somebody you
Hi.
admire.
Um, Pat Trotter.
Okay. And then the last question from the quick questions. One young person that you recently met in the dog world and you think will have a great career in dogs.
One person that I recently met.
Well, yes, somebody quite young, let's say, or you can, you know,
Okay,
somebody.
I'll have to
I don't.
get back. That's going to run around in the back of my mind. There's a lot of
Okay,
talented juniors out there. If I, um, the assistants
yeah,
at the
maybe,
shows, yeah,
yeah,
we pay attention to. I
yeah,
think that all the handlers pay attention to see who's really working, and who's really dedicated. I would say Uh, there are some younger handlers that are not really just starting out, but when you know that they've put all the time in, and it's not, I'm not talking about 6 months working for a handler for 6 months. I'm talking about working for a handler for 5 years. And it just takes a long time. And even when you're younger, you don't realize how important it is until you get older. So like there's some of the kids that have, and then they're not kids anymore. Some of the younger people that
Yeah.
worked for handlers for a long time that are just kind of like starting their careers, and there's lots of them. Um, those are the ones that I think there's a lot of them that are capable, and
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think a future of this is in pretty good hands. But
Yeah.
I'm going to think about
That's
the
good.
names.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We are done now with the quick questions. I will read you just a few of the comments, and then I have few more questions for you. Paige is saying, "Thank you so much. This interview is amazing." Joanna is saying, "I wish we could get in touch again someday." Linda, thank you for this moment and lovely memories about Flavio and all those gorgeous dogs. I breed cockers since 1992, and you are a great influence to me. Rob Ellis is saying, "Wonderful interview, refreshingly honest with great common sense." Andrea is saying hello from Hungary. I'm really thanks for this interview. I'm not so long time ago in dog world, but nice to see and hear and watch live people talking. Great people talking with great people. Very nice. Then Michael Canalizo is saying Jason Lynn did time with Linda, and Andrew answers they obviously taught him well. And then Per Ingar is saying, "This is great. One of my very favorite moments at American Spaniel Club was watching Linda show Andrew to best in futurity. Goosebumps moment." So these are the comments for the moment. And then there was one of the questions from before, which I didn't ask you because I had it prepared for you. And this is, would you like to be a judge one day?
Oh, sure. Yeah, of course. I actually kind of thought I'd be a judge by now, but financially, the way that the system is set up here, I can't afford to do it yet. So I'd actually done a little bit of the homework and um, worked on my application a couple of years ago when I got done showing the Pooley, and the timing just wasn't right. The finances didn't quite work out, and I think if and I the Black Cocker turned out to be something I really wanted to show. Now I can guarantee you, if there wasn't anything that was inspiring me to, get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and go slosh through the mud on a 40-degree day, um, it'd happen a lot sooner. But I still love doing what I do, and I still have dogs that I love to show. So, you know, as long as I can physically keep doing it, I've already gone through the highs and lows of mentally beating yourself up about it. But as long as
Yeah.
the physical part stays good, then maybe a couple more years, maybe.
Okay. Okay. Let's wait and see. But obviously, it is something that is going to happen
Oh,
sooner or later.
it's definitely gonna happen. Yes.
And then staying on the subject, which qualities do you think a dog show judge must possess? What do you find it to be most important in a judge that, for example, you respect as an exhibitor?
I have to feel like they know as much as I do, or close to as much as I do about the breed, like the specifics of breed type, the heads, and looking at the big picture. I love to talk to judges or handlers or owners and breeders that just get the big picture and don't get hung up on one little detail because the nose isn't quite big enough, or they've got one toenail that's an off color. It's just, if just to see a great dog or a really good dog of the breed is what keeps us going forward. Because if there were no good dogs, let's face it, all of us, you, me, Javier, we don't
Yeah,
we wouldn't want to do it. It's just too much work. You have
absolutely.
to do this much work, and to be this invested in it, you have to be inspired by what you're doing, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to ask you, and you mentioned a little bit before about campaigning a special or trying to get top dog all breeds like you did with Preston. How difficult is that? How difficult is to campaign a dog to become a top dog all breeds?
Um, it wasn't so bad for me because Preston had a little bit easier year than some of the other dogs. The next year, my Black Cocker was also the #1 dog all breeds in one system. We
Yeah.
have two systems here. So I basically did it back to back with two dogs. And I'm used to the lifestyle of it. I'm used to being gone. It takes some adjustment, but I the way I look at it, I prepared my whole life for this. You know, in one dog just gets better. Sometimes, you get as you get older, you get a little bit better one, you get a little bit better one, and get a little bit better one. If I'd have had that Pooley when I was 25 years old, that would have never happened because I wouldn't have had the common sense to do what I did. I think that's something you learn with accumulated knowledge over the years. But this is just a marathon. You just have to work like that's that's your total focus of life. It just you miss real life things and birthdays and friends and things like that. But it's really not a life for everybody, but it's the life that I chose, and I would exactly choose it the same way again.
Wonderful. I want to ask you something that it's people talk a lot about that, especially in Europe. I do suppose not so much in the USA. And I have asked all the handlers that I interviewed from the USA. Do you think that for an let's say unknown person, the unknown dog person with the top quality but unknown dog in the USA, it's possible to win something big? Do you
Yes.
think that somebody can come with the top dog and win, let's say, Best in Show in Orlando without being, let's say, advertised before or something like that?
It depends on the judging panel, to be
Okay.
honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
all things are created equal. Handlers, judges, breeders. I mean, to be honest, it's if the judging panel was set up by somebody that wouldn't be afraid to do something like that, sure. But no, nothing comes in here unannounced. Nothing's going to fly under the radar. If it's a top dog somewhere, then it's going to come in here looking like a top dog. I can remember dogs from years past that, they came from other countries, and by the time the second or third day happened, there were tons of people wanting to go look at it because it was just something new and different. And I think with the right panel, that sure it could win here if it was the best dog. I really do think that dog judging here is 90% straight up honest. And I
Okay.
know a lot of people might argue that point, but I really think most people are just trying to do a good job. And sometimes, personalities and things get in the way, and sometimes it might not seem like it, but I at the end of the day, if I didn't think that, I couldn't do this.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. I want to ask you another thing. um, um, Obviously, in the States, it's possible sometimes to be a handler, let's say specialist for one breed, and you
Mhm.
say yourself, you can go, for example, to one show and bring, I don't know, 10 American Cockers and show them. I remember when I spoke with Frank Sabella when he was judging in Split many years ago. He said to me that when he was a handler, if he would show more dogs in one breed, sometimes he felt that maybe judges, if they would know that he's bringing a top dog at the end, they would let him lose with the dogs before, because they were thinking, oh, maybe it doesn't look good that I win, every class or something like this. And he was saying to me, I could not wait to become a judge and go and judge a big entry, and if there was a one person who had the best dog in every class, to give him, to put him up in every class with the best dog. uh, do you think that when you show many dogs in one breed, in a way, judges sometimes play a little bit of politics because they are afraid to put up all the time the same person, even
Yes.
if the dogs are the best?
Yeah. Yeah. But but when you're a handler for this long as I am, you know who those people are, and you have
Yes.
to accept it. So, um, I'm not saying it's right, but I think it's human nature. And I've had people that were friends of mine that are judges say, sometimes if it can go either way, you've won a couple things, so
Yeah,
it's just
yeah,
it's part of it. Yeah. So yeah, it does happen.
yeah. But as you said, it's a part of a human nature also. For people are, however we want to put it, at the end of the day, people are sometimes a little bit sensitive to what other people are going to say. So sometimes, yes, it plays a
And
part.
now
But
we have all the groups on the internet where you can go on there and you can talk about the judge and how you think how stupid you think they are or whatever else that is. I have never read it. I've just seen a little bit of an excerpt of one of them. Yeah, no. I mean, I can't if I'm going to be judging, trust me, there's going to be none of that because that's uh-uh.
yeah, yeah. Okay, I'm happy that you have answered also to that question, because yes, it happens, but unfortunately, it is like it is. I want to ask you, both you and Mike are professional handlers. What do you feel is the best, and what do you feel is the worst part of the job?
The best part of the job. The most fun part of the job for me is picking out a dog and having it kind of like morph into a great show dog or a special that you can count on that does and it doesn't necessarily have to do as much winning as you think it did, but it's kind of like the process of finding it and something that really makes you interested to get out of bed in the morning. That's a fun part of the job. I the most amazing part of the job for me is just this international community. I mean, when you think back to when you're like a kid and you're thinking about dog shows and you think, oh, I want to be a professional dog handler. And the opportunities that if you do a good job and you really dedicate yourself to this business, you can go to Australia, you can go to Europe and show dogs and meet people with fascinating stories. Who else gets that life in just like a regular
Exactly.
situation? I mean, my brother and my sister both graduated from college. They have normal lives, but I don't see either one of them um, thinking of, the world travel like an international things and, going to judge the national specialty in Sweden. Just some of the amazing things I've done. I got to tell you, when I went to Australia probably 10 years ago to judge the junior showmanship state finals, I mean, I literally sat on the plane and I was like crying because I couldn't believe that I got to do that because it was just like that's just something you don't think about when you're a junior handler or an assistant and like where is my career going, that kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. It's the part where we sit and actually we talk about all the places that we visited and all the amazing people we met. I mean, that would never happen without Dog World.
Hmm.
That's something that is amazing. And let me read just few of the comments, and then I will continue with my questions. I have just a few more for them. We have been talking already for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and the time
Oh,
is passing really quickly. And it seems that people are enjoying it a lot and are putting many comments and questions. There is a comment from Paisley Larley saying your favorite rare breed other than the Pulik, and then he gives you also the answer Boykin Spaniel. So I'm not supposed if you need to answer this or not. Chenge Palochka is saying in 2018, I was there at the Spaniel Club show in the USA, and I loved it. There I met Linda and Mike. That time, Striker won Best in Show with Mike. Jane is saying dog judging in the US is 90% straight honest. I love that statement. Please remember these people. Desi Murphy is saying normally Linda and Michael win every class in cockers. Rebecca Cross is saying amen, traveling the world, doing what you love. Bill McFadden is saying, what about, I don't know if I'm going to pronounce this well, Bucky's.
what? Oh.
That must be some kind of, because I like it's, I suppose I pronounced it well. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it's Bucky's. It's a big
Bucky.
gas station in that has it's like if a Walmart and a mini mart 7-Eleven gas station had a baby. It's this big giant gas station with a bakery, and you can buy a cooler or some pajamas or anything. We went to There's a Bucky's near our dog show, so we go all the time.
Okay. And then there is a question from Andrew asking you how easy is these days how easy is it these days to find clients to back a potentially top dog?
Um,
Not easy.
we have we no, I have like a client group that's been with me, a lot of the same people for a long time, like 20 plus years. And we have some new people come in occasionally, but I've never been a big fan of asking people I don't know to be a backer. Um, it's more like a partnership to me, and um, we've just been incredibly lucky. So if I find something I really really like and I think has that kind of potential, then we'll talk about it, and that's kind of what's happened with a lot of the dogs we've shown lately. We have this my new Puli has some of the same ownership group as a lot of the other dogs we have, and everybody just it's easy when everybody gets along together, and
That's for sure.
everybody's trying to build each other up.
Yeah. Okay. My next question.
Well, what about the lows? You get my dog show highs. Now I forgot the lows. You want the lows
yes,
now?
yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me. Yeah. I forgot
The
that you
lows
didn't buy.
are social media, because people can take out their frustrations and just kind of like the negative comments that you can read. It Sometimes it's just not the most helpful thing. And I don't think that it's teaching young people what's important about doing this for I'm speaking as like for a career. I think it has a negative connotation. And the other negatives are just the fact that you have to live your life like a gypsy. And sometimes that's not all so bad. But, when you have children and when you have families and you miss out a lot of important things, uh, that's a negative. But I think that if the positives didn't really outweigh the negatives, there'd be nobody to do this. So
Yeah,
it's working.
absolutely. You were showing at some big shows in Europe, and I think you know that in many of the European countries already now it's not allowed to use hair dryers and irons and trimmers and table arms and chain collars and all the things.
Hmm.
Can you imagine that happening in the USA?
No, oh, let's hope not. Let's hope not. I mean, when I was at the World Show, I got yelled at. The judge stopped judging and walked over to me and yelled at me because I had a dog on top of a crate. I was just brushing. I wasn't using a blow dryer or anything. I didn't even have a spray. I was just brushing because
I suppose
that's what
that
we
was
do.
in Austria. I suppose that was in Austria.
Salzburg, yeah,
Yeah,
it was.
I was yelled there many times in my life.
I was like, what? I mean, I didn't even know, but now I learn. But let's hope not, because if we take away chains from showing here, that's just I just can't imagine how that's detrimental if used properly. And we're going to say if used properly with all these things. So let's hope not.
Yeah, let's hope for you, because we really have problems here, and when we have big shows in that kind of countries, the nightmares that you need to pass, first of all, preparing all the dogs in early morning in the hotel, and then hiding in the bathrooms and all kind of things that you need to do to have your dog look perfect is just
Do you have the cordless flat irons there now?
well, we have, yes, but you can't use irons. It doesn't have to, they can't see you using the irons.
They can't see you using. Yeah, well,
yeah.
right.
So that's a
Right.
problem. It's not a problem to have electricity or not. The problem is that you're not allowed to use it. But okay, yes, crazy things are happening. Let me see. Okay, I will ask two more of my questions, and then there is another question from the viewers. In the normal times, so let's forget 2020. How many dog shows you do per year?
200, or depends on how um, depends on how well some of the dogs are doing. And if we have a dog we're trying to be number one, like, and they're really pushing it, it can be a lot more than that. But that's like, usually that's something you figure out by the middle of the year, and then you can slow down a little bit if you don't have to. But 200 is pretty average number.
Javier almost fainted. Like, I think he just went, in his mind like 200 times ironing the Maltese and putting the top knots. He would be a deaf person. So I think it's a good thing we live in Europe for the moment. Anyhow, my next question is, if you can tell us shortly, how does your normal day at home look like, and how does your normal day at the dog show looks like?
Well,
If anything about that is normal, of course.
yeah, same thing. At home, well, I'm just going to assume we're on a regular show schedule. So for us in where we live, Javier, get ready. We have shows 4 days a week, or sometimes 5 days a week. So we get home on Sunday night after midnight, and then we have to leave either Tuesday night or Wednesday morning to go. So when I'm home, I'm literally running around with anything dealing with um, managerial paperwork, laundry, going to the cleaners, putting stuff in the truck, putting clothes together. And Mike is up at the kennel, like I said before, doing clipper work and helping to get the dogs ready. And the girls are washing and drying the dogs and cleaning the crates and reloading everything. It's kind of like, I think, like when a circus pulls into town and everybody's got their job and they've got like 24 hours to do it. So that's kind of what it is. And then at the shows, just depending on how many dogs we show and depending on the schedule, we're up 5:45 and just washing and drying dogs, getting them in the ring till some of our shows have been ending in 7, 8 o'clock at night now. So it's
Yeah,
just it's very basic, repetitive.
yeah. Okay, let me read a question from Sue from Australia. She's asking you. She's asking me to ask you. Can you ask Linda how difficult it is to part with the dog she has worked with for years? I know the answer, but I would love others to hear about this.
Oh my God. Um, you just get so attached to these dogs, people have no idea. Some, honestly, it's not like that, but some dogs that you special, that it's become so dramatic. I've had to send dogs back where I felt like they almost had to pry them out of my hands, and I know it was being way too dramatic on my part. And logically they have to go home, but when they've been your pets and they live in your house, it's horrible. But it's kind of like when you have a kid that you have to leave with the babysitter. When it's first gone, it's very dramatic, but after a little while it settles down. So I know they're all going back to people that love them, and they're going back to a great life. So logically, everything's going to be fine. But in that moment where you have to give them up, oh, it's been like ugly, ugly crying many times, many
Yeah,
times.
I think we all know the feeling. Okay, then I said to you in the beginning, I got this question from Andrew Brace before I started, so I'm going to read it for you. It seems that most of the really successful handlers in America began by apprenticing to the top handlers of the time, and this appears to continue over the generations. For the benefit of those outside the States, could you explain, if this is the case, how an enthusiastic youngster gets to apprentice with a top name handler and how their education works in practice?
Yes, I think that's 1000% correct. And it's such an important part of this profession. And when I say professional dog handler, I mean that you show dogs for a living. You know, you're not showing dogs on the weekend for gas money, and you're doing it because you love what you do. It's a craft. I hate it when I hear people talk about doing things for gas money or you made your money or just make your money. You know, we all have to make a living, but there's more to it than that with this job. It is your literally your life. So if a young person that wants to do this for a living, if they're really serious and if they know how much work it is, um, then yeah, they have to go try to find somebody that's knowledgeable, that's successful, because you can't fool people. Nobody is a success for any more than a year that doesn't have something to back it up. A lot of people can come and go and have one good dog, but it's a lot harder to stay there than it is to get there. But the hard work will get you there. And you go find somebody that's credible and knowledgeable and with a good reputation and just do things the right way. And that's the best way to do it.
Yeah.
I think I missed part of that question though.
Well, he was asking how a youngster gets to apprentice with the top name handler and how their education works in practice.
Okay. Yeah. So identify where you want to go, what breeds interest you, and then you can ask questions of the breeders in that breed. Do your research. There's plenty of research now, information available on the internet. Start looking at some places you could go, get people's opinions, and find people you trust to help guide you in the right direction. And as far as the schooling goes, you know, I have had girls work for me that did their college while they worked here, and it doesn't work for everybody. Um, that's kind of I don't encourage people to go or not to go to finish their education. That's a personal choice. I did not complete college because my that's something my parents wanted for me, and I did when I was working for the Clarks when I was a teenager. I did leave and go back home for about 6 or 8 months, and I tried to go to college. I really tried, but it just wasn't for me. I knew what I wanted to do for a living. I knew since I was 10 years old. So it didn't make any sense for me to be spinning my wheels sitting there in the psychology class because I just wanted out. And
Yeah.
I did not finish my college degree. I think everybody in these days probably should finish their college degree just to have something to fall back on because in this day and age with all the animal rights and things like that, this is kind of a little bit of a volatile profession right now, maybe. You know, I hope things don't change a whole lot with it over the years, but I think if you want to do it, if that's what really drives you, that you should do it. You can
Yeah.
do both. You can go to school and work at the same time.
Yeah. Um, the my next question is connected a little bit to this subject. What would you advise to somebody young who wants to become successful in the dog world? What would be your advice to that kind of person?
Find the best mentor you could find and study and learn as much as you can about the breeds that you're interested in. Determine what your idea of success is so you don't become disappointed by your progress and spend and focus on your job and not on your phone. You're not going to get a whole lot of information and a career path off a lot of the things that you're going to see on Facebook. But you know, I think that there's different levels of success for this business, and each and every one of them is fine. You don't have to go to 200 dog shows a year. There's a lot of handlers out there and a lot of really good breeders that are very selective with what they do. They just go to some specialties. There are specialty handlers that just concentrate on specialties in different breeds, poodles, German shepherds, and corgis. And everybody can determine their own level of success here. It's just how much do you want to push yourself? And just because and pushing yourself doesn't make it any better or any different. It's just managing your expectations of it, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, we have been talking about many different things in the last 2 hours, and people have already obviously enjoyed it a lot because there have been many comments and many questions. My last question for you tonight, and you have mentioned a little bit the problems that we are all facing with the animal activists and these things. Um, how do you see the future of the sport? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? What do you think will happen, let's say, in the next 10 years with purebred dogs and dog shows?
I'm gonna say I'm optimistic about it because if I was pessimistic about it, I have wasted a whole lot of time breeding these puppies if I can't do anything with them. But this year has been a great time for purebred dogs. I have never in my life seen so many people interested in owning a purebred dog than in this COVID time. I mean, every day, almost everybody I know that's a breeder, we get lots of requests, and these are from great homes. People that have lost a dog. I think the society is aging a little bit, and it's slowing down. People have time to be with their dog at home. They want a new puppy, and the AKC has managed to flip the message, and now the whole thing about rescuing is not really at the forefront. A lot of people just want a purebred dog, and they realize the value of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's what you just said, and obviously people have different opinions about that. But it is true that in the last few years, this message that was spread around, "Don't buy, adopt," was very
Adopt and stop. Yeah.
yeah, was very, very popular. But I think that also people realize that obviously adopting a dog which maybe had a trauma before, or that you don't know how big it's going to grow, or you don't know who are his parents and so on.
Health testing.
Yeah, I think people actually realize that's not just like this. Okay, let's be good people and let's adopt a dog. Because it's a great responsibility to have a dog, and probably, as you say, in the USA, the same is in Europe. It's incredible amount of people that are asking now for purebred puppies, which I think it's amazing. In a way, let's hope that they understand that the puppy is not only for the COVID time, but I think it opens a completely new door to the sport, and I think we have this great possibility to get new people in the sport. So I'm in the same way optimistic as you are, thinking that maybe this is a good thing.
Well, I think that when people that show dogs that are breeding dogs, and when you have puppies that are available, you are connecting people with the dog show world. And when they see you and they see your dogs and they're healthy and they're not having a cocker like they did 20 years ago that was at the vet every day because it had an ear infection and had skin problems, and they've just realized that these healthier dogs that the good breeders have taken care of and taken the time to put out there, they connect with the dog show world. They've gone back. Now they're looking on the internet. They're looking at dog shows on TV. Oh yeah, we're going to watch you at Westminster, and it's flipped the message to like, oh my gosh, that's so horrible making those dogs travel in cages. Crate training is a necessity. If you get a puppy from me, you have to have a crate to get a puppy because that's their house. So it's taken that whole thing and it's kind of turned it on its side, and it's made, I think it's taken a lot of the stigma off of being a dog show person.
Yeah,
for the general public.
Absolutely. Anyhow, first of all, let me thank you, Linda, for accepting my invitation to be my guest tonight. Well, obviously I have seen you on the dog show, but I don't think we ever spoke in a real life. And I was so happy to, as I said in the beginning, that there were not so many information about you online, and I'm happy to see that so many people, including myself, enjoyed this talk. We have really heard so many interesting things about your life, about your opinion about different subjects. I have truly enjoyed it. I hope it was not too stressful for you. There have been a lot of great comments and that you can also read later on. Let's read just a few of them now. Patricia is saying again, without passion, a pro handler is just somebody who gets money to hold the leash of a dog in the ring. Elaine is saying wise words, Linda. Shai is saying amazing interview, thank you. Alice is saying a great interview, thank you both. Lotte Jorgensen is saying clever woman. Andrew Brace is saying AKC has certainly led the way in promoting purebred dogs to the public. If only other kennel clubs had followed their example. So there has been really great to spend these 2 hours with you. I really appreciate that you have taken your time to talk to all of us. I want to wish to you and to your family Merry Christmas and all the best in the new year. As I said, also, I want to thank once again Eukanuba for sponsoring this show. I want to tell you that next Wednesday, just before the new year, we are going to have Jose Homem de Melo as my guest. And I'm going to do a special show on 31st of December, where all my guests, including Linda, will send a nice Happy New Year message to our viewers. But more information about that, I will post in our Talking Dogs with Ante group. I'm leaving the last words for tonight to you, Linda. Something that you want to say for the end of this interview to many people who are watching from all around the world.
Oh, well, I'm just amazed that I can't believe that. I'm honored to have done it. I'm seriously like, I go, why are you even asking me? Because I just feel like I have nothing new to say, but I appreciate the opportunity to talk about being a professional handler, because it's really, really such an important thing to me. And I'm honored to be here, and I really looking forward to meeting some of these people in person that I don't know yet. And in my travels next year when we open up and start traveling again, which I can't wait. And I'm proud to be a part of this whole interview process. It's been great. I've learned so much from your other interviews. So I'm really looking forward to more of that.
Thank you so much, Linda. Thank you for tonight. Thank you for your kind words. As I said, people have enjoyed it. Peter is saying very interesting interview. Patricia saying thanks both of you for a great interview. Romy saying great interview. I was so soaked into it, there was no time to put any comments. Thank you. Lana saying enjoyed every minute. Great interview. Elaine saying Merry Christmas to Ante and Linda and Mike. Paisley saying great interview. Thank you. Simon saying great interview. Thank you, Linda and Ante. Thanks, Linda, for continuing to be honest and share your experience and views. Julie saying loved every second. So grateful to keep learning from exceptional people with such a lovely personality and a high sense of professionalism like this. Thank you both. Merry Christmas. Regina saying excellent interview. Thank you. So people have really enjoyed it. I have really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
I hope you have already enjoyed it.
I did, after I got past the initial shock of it.
Yeah, well, yeah, as I said to you, after a few minutes it gets much better, and the fact that there has been so many people, and I mean, what I really want to say once again, to see that in this difficult time we are making interviews with amazing people like you, and that there are amazing dog people that obviously I'm going to ask also to be my guests, or some of them have already been my guests, to see, for example, comments from Rebecca Cross, from Ernesto Lara, from Bill McFadden, for people who are idols to many of us. It's just amazing that all these top dog people from all around the world enjoy to watch other top dog people. I think that's something amazing.
We're our own biggest fan base, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So once again, thank you, Linda. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. And
Merry
I
Christmas
hope
to you.
that when these crazy times pass, we are going to meet also somewhere in life.
Me too.
Good night, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the week. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.